create a great website that performs well, that serves valuable content to your customers. If you do that, you're winning the battle. You've got the cheek to ask for thousands of pounds a month from a company, then the bare minimum you could do is spend half an hour putting some sort of logical order together on your strategy.
Good morning, everybody. So today I'm delighted to have with me Dan Wiggins. So Dan, over to you. Give us an introduction, please.
Morning, Paul. Thanks very much for having us on. I appreciate it. This is sort of a bit of a new venture for me, joining on interviews and podcasts and whatnot like this. So I appreciate the opportunity. It's good to speak to you this morning.
Pleasure.
Like Paul alluded to then, my name is Dan. I am the owner and founder of Redcore Digital, a specialised SEO agency based in Birkenhead near Liverpool. We focus on delivering robust SEO strategies to our clients, which help them generate more traffic and ultimately lead sales conversions online without the reliance of paid media.
So one question I've got a few questions, so I hope it's okay to run through these with you, Dan, today. So the first question I'd like to put to you is, what are the most common signs that a business needs to invest in professional SEO services?
Yeah, so typically when we start speaking to clients, sort of from those day one conversations, a lot of the problems that crop up is time for those businesses, especially people who are running in-house roles. So we see time and time again, people who are working as head of marketing or marketing managers, they're often stretched pretty thin. And there's one thing that we know with SEO is it requires a lot of time and a lot of input. Hence why we don't brand ourselves as a full service marketing agency. In fact, we're far from it. Our service offering is SEO content and a little bit of website management and maintenance implementation. So when we say that to clients, we say, look, the reason why you should invest in a specific SEO agency is for that specialty. We stay in our lane, we execute, a hand select few things, and we do a really good job of it. Another telltale sign is declining traffic. That number one would be one of the reasons why someone would reach out to us in the early stages. They've been monitoring their traffic over the months or years or whatnot, and they can see just a steady decline in traffic. The good thing is typically if it's a steady decline, then we know it's probably because they're not doing any ongoing work within their website. The troubles really lie when it's a rapid decline. That's normally when they've been hit by an algorithm update if they're conforming to some bad best practices. But typically, if there's a slow, steady decline over time, then it's usually just something we can fix from a strategy misalignment point of view.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I mean, I'm no SEO expert like a few people. I know some of the basics, but I've read so many articles over the years where Google, was it the Penguin update and various updates they've done over the years where people say their traffic just drops off a cliff overnight. It's what sort of measures can businesses take to avoid that? Do you sort of get like a heads up from Google? Have you got like some kind of internal arrangement with them so you know what's coming, you can prepare for it, or is it a surprise to everybody when it happens?
No, well, I wish we did. No, nothing like that whatsoever. So one of the older ways of categorizing SEO strategies, which isn't used too often nowadays, but there used to be the categorization of black hat, grey hat, and white hat SEO. So black hat SEO being you go almost directly against Google Webmaster Guidelines. You're paying for backlinks on mass. You may be stuffing keywords into category pages and certain pages on your website with the intention of getting some quick wins, aggressive wins, but that comes with an element of risk. So typically what we would do is white hat SEO. Now, again, these are old phrases. I wouldn't really, we don't include any of this in our pitches or when we're speaking to new clients nowadays, but just for a more anecdotal sort of summary. White hat SEO means that your strategies would conform directly with Google's Webmaster Guidelines. So everything that we would do for a client is by the books. Google basically saying this is how you should do it, and that is essentially just creating good value content for your target users. Now, that sounds as a byline, that sounds like, well, that's obvious. Why wouldn't we do that? But you'd be surprised that the way that people would bypass that and go for the other approach of old school black hat SEO, of purchasing links, stuffing keywords in. It's the easy option. That's what it comes down to. It's the easy option.
Gosh, I mean, I'm showing my time here a bit, but I remember, I remember the days long time ago when Google was like in its infancy, when there were sort of link farms where people just literally post content, just lots of links, because Google was
Yeah.
quite a crude beast back then. Obviously, it's much more sophisticated with all the algorithms now, but that's how people used to do it, isn't it? Back in the day, lots of links, just splat shotgun approach everywhere, SEO,
Yeah.
but it's obviously
Um,
a lot different these days.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the algorithm itself is, way more complex, but the fundamentals of it are, in my opinion, simpler than ever. Create a great website that performs well, that serves valuable content to your customers.
Yeah,
If you do that, you kind of win. You're winning the battle. Yes, we can talk about technical SEO, schema markup, implementation, page load speed, and whatnot. But again, you can draw all of those elements. You can draw it back to user experience. So if you just make that the main focus of everything you do, then you'll be on the winning pile. And
yeah,
yes, it may take longer, but that's one of the biggest misconceptions of SEO. There are no quick wins. When I say quick wins, I mean week one wins. You know,
sure.
um, so yeah, it's a bit of a dark art, and it's had its history and it's changed over the years. And there's people stuck in the past, and there's people wanting to change, moving forwards. We kind of find ourselves, nicely in the middle. We've
Yeah.
been around long enough to experience the old ways, but we're fresh enough that we can adapt and move forward with the new ways.
So what do you do to, when a company approaches you, what do you do to ensure that the SEO strategy that you produce aligns with the company's marketing goals overall?
Yeah, really easy. I mean, to be honest, most of the marketing goals should just be to generate the business more money. Like at the end of the day, we don't typically work with charities. Everything we do is for businesses to generate more turnover, generate more profit, generate more leads, inquiries, and whatnot. So if we work with a marketing team and their main KPIs were to generate newsletter signups and more, I don't want to say vanity, because obviously there is a lot of value in those channels of marketing, but that's not our focus. Our focus is to generate, customers coming into a business's website who are essentially ready to purchase. Further along down our strategies, we will start looking at blog content, but it's never the main focus for us. We work with businesses within month one, basically to idealize their customer profile. So we'll work with marketing teams. We'll run a workshop. We'll find out what their target avatar is, their ideal customer profile.
Yeah,
Based on that, we can then carry out keyword research to make sure that we're actually targeting keywords that press on the issues that customers are looking for solutions to.
okay.
And without that, you are kind of just throwing everything on a wall and seeing what sticks.
Mm,
So we need guidance and we need input and we need to collaborate with marketing teams very early on in the strategy to do that.
okay, makes sense. So, if someone like a marketing manager or anybody that's looking for SEO, what should they, what should a marketing manager sort of look out for when they're trying to choose one SEO agency over another? What sort of things would be the key factors to look out for?
Yeah, well, I mean, the number one priority on their list is probably always going to be price and budget. No one wants to overpay for a service. And typically, what we're seeing now is a trend of agencies can be huge. There are some agencies in the UK now that have 100 and 150 members of staff. And they may specialize in SEO, they may specialize in other areas, they may be full service marketing. But if you were to actually look at the structure of that company, likelihood is they're going to have a board of directors, they're going to have sales team, they're going to have account managers, they're going to have business execs, they're going to have business development managers and whatnot. So if you're paying them a £10,000 a month fee, realistically, the question should be asked, okay, what budget is being allocated to SEO specifically? What budget is being allocated to campaign specifically? And you'll find that £10,000 very, very quickly gets trickled down.
Yeah,
The benefits of working with a boutique agency like ourselves, a much smaller agency, we don't have account managers, we don't have salesmen. We are the SEO experts. We are the ones delivering the work. We're the ones jumping on calls with clients on a Tuesday morning and explaining the strategy. And then, Thursday afternoon, we're the ones sending them the documents we promised them 2 days earlier.
yeah,
That's the way we'll at least for the foreseeable, that's the way we'll operate. I'm pretty sure we'll get to a point maybe where we scale and we might need the dedicated account manager. But my vision for the business is never to have 50 members of staff working for Redcore. I don't really want to scale a business to that point. That's not my aspirations. Um, Often as well with that um, with that high staff turnover comes the notion of being passed from pillar to post, and that's something we hear time and time again from new clients who have worked with another agency, and
Yeah,
they've said, yeah, it was great, but one week I'd speak to someone and the next week I'm passed to somebody else, and it's it doesn't, you can't build a relationship when someone's being passed around the office.
that's horrible.
So again,
No
it presses
continuity.
on a lack of transparency as well.
Yeah. No, you've touched a lot of my own buttons there, and you're a man after my own heart because I'm a kind of a, I'm always interested in all kinds of business, and the explanation you just provided there, that can apply to so many things. I know it's a very very
Yeah,
crude analogy, but if you go into a supermarket, you'll pay like £4 for a bottle of Heinz tomato sauce because they've got all the marketing and the overheads, and you can buy a kind of non-branded tomato sauce, which is just as good for like probably about a quarter of the price because you're not paying for
mm,
all those overheads, like you say, the account executives, the board of directors, the swanky office, and all of that. And it's like so many things in life. A lot of things are marketed very heavily, and the price that you pay for things like things like aftershave and perfumes that you see advertised by all the celebrities, they're probably getting like $100 million or something crazy to advertise a product, and that's where the consumer money is going. And the actual
yeah,
amount of the money that's going to the service or the product is kind of like, I don't know, 10% or something really tiny, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's really refreshing to hear you say that, because, and also the continuity, because for me personally, when I'm dealing with any kind of business, it's so frustrating when you're dealing with different people and they haven't taken notes from the previous conversation. You're having to repeat what you said, and you're paying money for something and you expect them to remember what you've told them before, and it's just it's not only courtesy, but it's good business practice, isn't it? If you're dealing with the same person in a relationship in business,
yep.
they know what you said before, they know what you're aiming for, and it's just an ongoing dialogue rather than, oh, what did you tell my colleagues? Sorry, I haven't got a record of that. It's like, oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. When we do speak to marketing agents, marketing managers, and we speak to businesses and potential prospects and stuff, I always say to them on discovery calls, look, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions right now. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, but then I'm just going to sit back and just let you talk.
Yeah,
We're not here right now to talk about how great we are, how shiny we are, how nice our office is, how good our staff is. I just want to find out about your business. So I've got a set of questions. I want to run through them and then just talk to me. And that's that's something that I think comes across really well, especially in person, not
definitely.
through Teams. I know we're sat here doing this online, but geographically, this doesn't make sense to do in person. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
I think transparency is a massive factor for us at Redco. We want to make sure that we can actually present a workflow, and forecast what we're going to be working on in 6 months' time,
yeah,
and present that to a client in a really clear, concise way. You'll be shocked at the amounts of prospects we speak to, where we ask them a question. We say, okay, so you've worked with an SEO agency in the past, or you're working with an SEO agency now. Would you mind me, would you mind me asking, what is their focus going to be in 4 months' time? And they say, oh, we're not too sure. Well, is there not a strategy? Is there not a campaign that we can bring up and show us what they're working on?
yeah.
No, we don't get anything like that. And
Shocking.
if there's no strategy, then uh, what is it that you are working towards? If you're just
Yeah.
working on an ad hoc basis, sending things over once a month, I can't rationalize that.
No, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because in so many, I mean, this can apply to a lot of different business types also. That as a either a customer consumer or a business consumer, if we're
Mm.
approaching another professional, we're placing trust in that professional to know what they're doing and to give us the best service that there is.
Yeah,
Um, but I always think in life, we have to have a bit of education ourselves about the subject domain, because how do we know that what we're getting is good? It's a bit like, people taking their car to the garage and they don't know anything about a car, or people getting their house decorated and they don't know anything about decorating. In life, you can take a big leap of faith and just trust someone implicitly, or you can do a bit of your own research and get a bit of a basic understanding. So at least you can have an intelligent conversation with that person, but also you can gauge whether they're doing things right or not. And it's so hearing stories like the one you just said, which I've heard before with other people, not just with SEO, but all kinds of
Mm.
things. They place their trust in somebody, and then they realised through a bad experience that they weren't being dealt with in the best way. They weren't getting a like a 6 month
Yeah.
strategy or a written plan or something they could be measured against. They're just taking that guy's word for it, and they're not getting best value. It's a real shame, isn't it?
Well,
And then you get bad
you know,
experience, do SEO again.
yeah. I mean, look, the definition of a strategy is the prioritization of resources. So lay out everything on the table you could possibly do for this client and just prioritize them and then put it into some sort of chronological order and then deliver it to a client on a 3, 6, 12-month basis. It isn't rocket science. And if you've got the cheek to ask for thousands of pounds a month from a company, then the bare minimum you could do is spend half an hour putting some sort of logical order together
Yeah,
on your strategies.
in life generally, I prefer to work with smaller businesses because the likes of yourself, you've got a vested interest in the client's success. Whereas some guy at a big agency who's like, he might be a nice guy or a nice lady, but they don't have the same invested passion with the clients that they're dealing with. For you, it's in your very best interest to make sure you give the client the best possible service, and that, and your passion will be delivered into that. But somebody's just at a big agency, and not, again, where the client gets switched from pillar to post from one week to the other, that the person at the agency doesn't have the same invested interest in looking after the client because they've got a job, they get the salary, they got their national insurance paid, they got 20 weeks, they get 20 days paid holiday, they got a company car or whatever. It's an easy life, and although they might get measured on performance, I don't think they're ever going to be as motivated to deliver that absolutely brilliant service that the likes of you and me do to our clients.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side of that, I think everyone is just a slave to the systems. So if you're just an employee at an agency that isn't delivering consistent performance for clients, then I don't necessarily think it's the SEO's fault or the person working on the account. I think it's the systems and the tools available to them from the agency. I always want to make sure we enable our staff to do the best job possible. That's by making sure they're nowhere near 100% capacity at all times, making sure they've got the best available tools at all times, making sure they've got the best possible training at all times, and also making sure that our clients are good. Like the amount of clients that we say no to because we're not the right agency for them.
Okay.
But if we open the floodgates and we brought every single lead or prospect in and sign them as a client, I could just imagine it would create an awful culture of people not
Yeah.
wanting to work with unlikable clients. Because let's be honest, everyone out there is just trying to do the best they can. Like that's okay, 9 out of 10 people are trying to do just the best they can. But those 1 out of 10 people aren't doing the best they can, and they're the ones that we want to try and make sure that we're not taking them on as a client because
Yeah.
one, we can't get results for them. They're just going to terminate, and no one's going to be happy. So
And they're going to be just. I've had clients like that, and they're just not nice to work with. You don't, no matter how much money they pay, they're just
yeah,
you almost dread the phone call, you dread the meeting because they're so abrasive and sometimes quite rude. It's just who wants that in their life? It's too short, isn't it?
yeah. I think there's a stigma that the only person that can terminate a working relationship is the client.
Ooh,
That's not true. Like
definitely
the
not.
agency, the freelancer, the contractor, they can terminate too. Like if we don't enjoy working with you, then I'm sorry, but we are going to part ways.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
My priority is to protect staff.
I think that's really good because I think having sort of read a lot of content about Richard Branson, he always puts. People say put the customer first, but I think Richard Branson says put your employees first because if you make sure your
Yeah,
employees are happy, the customers benefit from that. And I really believe that because if you look after your staff, without staff, there's no business, there's no company. But if your staff are happy and they're really pleased with what they're doing, then that will reflect onto happy customers because if people love what they're doing, that rubs off on the client. So,
yeah,
and I think I really admire companies that stand by their client in any situation. If there's ever any kind of situation of conflict, they sort of stand by their employee
yeah,
um, rather than taking the side of the client by default. I think that's the way to be, and that's my philosophy as well. I think it just seems more ethical, personally.
yeah. It's also very empowering as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
So, in terms of SEO, because there are a lot of people out there that don't really know much about what it means, what do you think is the biggest misconception about SEO, and what do you do to help clients kind of overcome them?
Um, yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and people in the SEO industry are probably fed up with talking about this, but it is still something that stands. It's not a one and done project. It's not something you can spend, 2 or 3 months working on, even 6 months working on, achieve a level of success, and then sit back and reap the rewards. It requires constant attention, constant focus, and it's just not something you can just do once and
Yeah,
and and, and crack on. And it shouldn't be either. Almost nothing is. There's the odd exception. Building a one-page checkout will likely increase your conversion rates. That's a one and done thing. But with SEO, constant content optimization, making sure that if you're adding new content, there's internal links being correctly optimized and driven to those pages. There's it's very difficult for businesses to hire in-house SEO because there is so much to do.
yeah,
You would need to recruit a team to manage SEO, which is often why it's better just to outsource it to an agency. The cost savings associated with outsourcing SEO to an agency cannot be exaggerated. It makes way more sense in every aspect to outsource to an SEO agency.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, I'm biased, but that's the truth of it. There's
No,
plenty of studies and plenty of statistics out there.
I've got a quick personal question as well for you, which is something I'm curious about. When you type a search term into Google, 9 times out of 10, you can almost guarantee that Amazon will appear in the search results for. How the hell do they do that? There's such a vast amount of things that they sell, but they always seem to rank for just about everything. How the hell do they manage even something like something quite obscure like a referee's whistle or a I don't know something
Yeah.
that's not particularly broad? They always seem to manage to get a top, within the sort of top three of the search results on the search results page. How do they do that?
I mean, often, they're just a brand powerhouse. That's there's just sometimes there's just nothing that we can do. Amazon's URL structure of the website is an absolute mess. It's a nightmare. Any SEO that would look at the Amazon website, from a technical perspective, there are so many points you could pick apart from an SEO perspective. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's Amazon.
Sure.
These are they the biggest employer in the world? Biggest employer?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know for sure.
Um, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe along those lines. Their brand can just carry them through any sort of strategy. On the other hand, while I say that, there are other big brands who get manual penalties from Google, who receive, backlash on algorithms, left, right, and center.
Oh,
There's
really?
been famous cases over the years of Google of brands receiving huge manual actions against their websites for, for bad practice. BMW, Daily Mail, um, who else? The Sun, I think recently the Sun got a manual penalty. JC Penney got a massive penalty years and years ago. The span of these incidents is, over 10, 15 years now, for very
Wow.
outdated practices. But no one's safe. But, Amazon certainly hold the authority.
Interesting. So, Dan, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. I know time is short and you're a busy guy, but if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
If you want to get in touch with me directly, then LinkedIn is always the best way to do that. So you can just search for Dan Wiggins through LinkedIn. I'm sure there'll be a couple of links around this podcast. And yeah, just connect with me, send me a message, let me know where you've come from. If you're interested in speaking to Redcore as an SEO agency, then head to our website, and we've got a system on there where you can book directly into one of our calendars. We can facilitate a 30-minute meeting, which we label as a discovery call, completely free of charge. We just we'll jump on basically within a couple of days' notice, really.
Brilliant. Good. Well, Dan, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I've learnt a few interesting little snippets for my own benefit there. So, thank you very much. And I'll see
No
you
worries,
next time.
Paul. I really appreciate you having me on. This has been a a nice change to a Thursday morning.
Pleasure. We'll do it again. Bye
Great
for
stuff.
now.
Thanks, Paul.
Cheers,
Bye
Dan.
bye.
Bye.